Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Care Team Chronicles. I'm your host, Jessica, and today we're chatting with our lovely colleague and former education director, Courtney Collins. Thank you for joining us, Courtney.
Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Yeah, of course. Always nice to see you. Wish I could hug your neck
pleasure.
right now. You are attending a conference next week about cannabis and palliative care, and we wanted to learn more.
Yeah, so this particular conference, it's called HHAC. It's Home Care and Hospice Association of Colorado, and it was scheduled to be in person in Beaver Creek, Colorado in March, but because of COVID, it got postponed and postponed again. So now everything is happening virtually online, and I'm presenting a literature review on cannabis, cannabinoid therapy next Friday. It will be live. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We get to get a sneak peek here.
It's a sneak peek. It's a few slides and a few different studies that I'll share today and some big takeaways.
Perfect. So first of all, can you help us define what palliative care is?
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen and I have a slide that defines it. And what's great about this slide is that it was these big nuggets that I pulled from the World Health Organization. So I didn't just, kind of randomly come up with a definition for this, but just the idea that I think a big misnomer is that people think, oh, palliative care, therefore it's, someone at the end of their life at 100 years old, 90 years old. We think of old people. However, it can be anywhere from, 0 to 110. It's talking about improving the quality of all lives of patients, and no matter what age, but also their families when associated with life-threatening illness. Mm-hmm. And we talk about the prevention and relief of suffering, treatment of pain, and that includes physical, psychosocial, and spiritual. And, mostly we talk about affirms life in regards dying as a normal process, intends neither to hasten or postpone death, integrates the psychological and spiritual aspects of patient care, and offers a support system to not only the patients, but also to the family and how they're coping during the patient's illness and their own bereavement, uses a team approach to address the needs of patients and their families, including counseling. We talk about enhancing quality of life, so making sure people are comfortable, and then in conjunction with other therapies that are intended to prolong life, such as chemotherapy, radiation therapy. So all those things, and you can look a little bit more in depth if you wanted at the World Health Organization and their lengthy definition of palliative care. And Jessica had a great question. She said, what's the difference between palliative care and hospice care? And did I finish sharing my screen? Is that right?
Yep.
It's just us, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. And that's a great question, because I said, oh my gosh, I actually didn't know, and I was going to look it up. But, according to Medline Plus, a government agency, it says both palliative care and hospice care provide comfort, but palliative care can begin at diagnosis and at the same time as treatment, whereas hospice care begins after treatment of the disease is stopped and when it is clear that the person is not going to survive the illness. So those are the two, the differentiators between palliative care and hospice. So I think that was a really good question, Jessica. So thank you.
I thought the audience might have the same question that I had.
Good, yeah.
Quite understood the difference. So thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely.
That for sure. So physician and author of the book Cannabis in Palliative Care, Current Challenges and Practical Recommendations, Claude Cyr, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, he states, if we are going to integrate cannabis products into medicine, palliative care is the best port of entry. Tell me why you think that might be.
Yeah, so I think the palliative patients, they have multiple symptoms ranging from physical to psychological, like pain and vomiting, but then there's also depression, anxiety, low moods, even spiritual conflicts, right? Whereas cannabis is such a unique compound and plant that it can address so many of these symptoms, and it's also so safe to use. So I think that's why integrating a cannabis product could be the best port of entry for palliative care, hospice care.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It is very safe to use, and that's something that doctors, healthcare providers are finally understanding,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It is just a plant, and it can help people. And we wish that people would not wait till the very last ditch effort to start using cannabis therapies.
That's right. I think a lot of people get to stage 4 diagnosis and they say, oh, we should try cannabis. What if you're starting that as an adjunctive conjunctive therapy earlier on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As far as the research goes, RCTs, also known as randomized controlled trials, all of us have heard of those. Those have been few and far between as it relates to cannabis use in palliative care. But self-reporting and observational research has taken place.
That's
Has
correct.
it shown much in terms of efficacy?
Yes, so I will share with you a study out of Canada. It was pretty large. It took place in 2019, so very recently. At least it was published in 2019. And over 2,400 participants were given a survey. And it was, the objective was to determine the relative contributions of THC and CBD to patients' self-ratings of efficacy to common palliative care symptoms. So, here they are rating themselves and how they feel after using THC and CBD. And what's the huge outcome of this was that it was a 3-point reduction in neuropathic pain, anorexia, anxiety symptoms, depressive symptoms, insomnia, and post-traumatic flashbacks. And that was, the maximum benefit was a 1-to-1 ratio. So 50% THC, 50% CBD. And the idea was the response was associated with increased THC and CBD ratio. And what I love about this was that it's real world, it's happening now, it's timely. It didn't take years to do a randomized control trial. There might be some bias in there, like, I'm taking something, it makes me feel better. Yeah, I'm probably doing better. But what's really cool about this is that it can identify several areas for future research. So when it is time to do an RCT trial, RCT study, we can look at these types of self-reporting to kind of guide us to what needs to be studied in an RCT, for example. But I thought that was pretty significant, and pretty significant 3-point reduction, but also really interesting self-reporting. And I love that, people are using this regardless of what their doctor says. And at least, us at the Realm of Caring are trying to capture that data in our ORR, or Observational Research Registry. Same thing in Canada, right? The government's trying to capture these organizations, public health, trying to capture how people are feeling and how they're reacting as a result of using THC and CBD, specifically within palliative care. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm glad that they talked about THC too, because
yeah,
a lot of people are afraid to use THC when in fact it has so many benefits. And even when you're using small amounts, like 5 to 10 milligrams,
it can have a huge difference. Yeah,
absolutely. And you don't have to feel stoned out of your mind.
No, and especially when it comes to appetite, right?
Yeah.
And if you have that loss of appetite, or it could really help you with all those symptoms.
Yeah, nausea. Also, improving your mood, helping you to cope better with death, because the fact is 1 in 1 people die. So we're all going to be there.
Yeah. And maybe in that sense, people, we talk about that spirituality component, and I do think that this plant can bring that when used, mindfully and in a specific way or context.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Courtney. Thank you. So tell us, how have the attitudes and beliefs towards cannabis use among palliative care individuals evolved over time? So we're talking about that a little bit now, that people are more open to understanding what THC can do for them and other cannabinoids. But have you found, doing your studies here, have you found some information about how their beliefs may have changed over time?
Would you believe that I have a study that shows exactly that? Let
I
me
know
share
you heard of
let me share my screen again.
Thank you.
and and let me show you this great study out of they took two states. So one with legalized marijuana, medical marijuana in Arizona, and non-legalized state Texas at the time. This was published in 2019. Again, they gave people, cancer patients, they addressed the attitudes and beliefs about medical usefulness. And believe it or not, across the board, whichever state they were in, both cancer patients in both states, supported legalization of marijuana for medical purposes and believed in its medical use. So it didn't matter whether it was legal or non-legal. But these cancer patients really believe that they should have access to it. And obviously the support for medical use was higher than for recreational use. And that makes sense too. But that was, interesting that, like we said, people are using it, and why not have, at least healthcare professionals, healthcare providers get on board and help, at least their patients work with this, or a conjunctive therapy, adjunctive therapy type. And I think we're seeing a growing trend here. I talked to a woman this morning, a friend, and she said that her mom, living she's in assisted living, she just had no appetite. And she just gave her a little gummy every day. And, it was just amazing that she felt that much better. But I think, she's not telling her doctors about it. But people are using this, whether they get doctor approval or not. So I think knowing more about it is the best way we can help our patients and support them.
Absolutely. I think that clients should tell their doctors about it.
They should.
They should, even if they're afraid to. The doctors need to know that it's
Yes.
working for you. So this is the anecdotal evidence
Yep.
that they could document in your charts. And most likely they're not going to drop you as a patient.
No.
They're going to want to learn more about it. And if they do want to drop you as a patient, then it's time to find a new doctor anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, this is the time. I mean, cannabis, especially here in Colorado, has evolved so much over the last decade. There are,
Yep.
hundreds, if not thousands, more doctors that are on board.
Absolutely.
They may not want to write you the medical card, but they want to know what's working for you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think.
And I think that could only help their other patients really in the long run. Help you as a successful provider.
Exactly. It'll help the other patients. They can understand it more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are, if you're looking for providers that are cannabis friendly in your area, on our website, we'll put a link in the comments below. But we do have a provider directory. So you might be able to find someone in your state that is cannabis friendly that you can speak to about it if your doctor is not willing to. I wanted to mention that.
Good point.
Yeah. So let's talk about the big takeaways here, Courtney. Where's a good place for folks to start?
Yeah, so let me share my screen one last time for big takeaways, and just food for thought I put up here. We talk about, yes, there needs to be more research. The current research is short term, there's small sample size, data remains limited, obviously far from being conclusive, and we do need well-designed randomized control trials. I understand that, more clinical outcomes in human populations. So I would also say big takeaways, everyone is different. And that's why it's important to really talk to a healthcare provider, or even if you need help, talk to us, Realm of Caring. We have care specialists that are here for you, and they can explain to you, our response to cannabis, our endocannabinoid systems. Everyone is different. So you're going to have different outcomes. We can also talk about pharmaceuticals and side effects, and how are you feeling on the pharmaceuticals and the side effects. I think cannabis we can outweigh the benefits of those. So it depends on what you're looking for. We talked earlier about conjunctive and adjunctive therapy. So, there's nowhere that you can say like, oh, you can't take this together. We talk about spacing apart your medication, but also, making it not a last ditch effort, but taking it earlier on. And then other things we talk about, it's really important that you get a quality product. We talk about ratios, what's best for you, how much to take, the route of administration. Some might be a topical, might be a tincture, right? We talk about those things, different products, and also legalities, depending on where you live, and access. And I'm not trying to give up, to give hope to everybody, but Joel Munson makes a great case. He always says cannabis can eliminate the need for palliative care. In some cases, we've seen where a lot of our clients, start taking cannabis, and then, their brain tumors shrink in some cases. That's not the case for everyone, but he does make a point to say that cannabis can eliminate the need for this. And bottom line is quality of life matters. And I think that's so important when we're talking about palliative care and hospice care, is that what kind of quality of life are you having with the pharmaceuticals or pain meds that you're on? And their side effects might be just too intense, and that maybe you're looking for something else to help manage with those symptoms. I think that's so important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah,
you're welcome. Thank you for your time today. Is there anything else you wanted to add for the audience?
I just wanted to thank you for having me on and giving a little sneak peek from the literature review that's coming up in a week, and give me some practice. And it's great to be here.
Great. Well, it's always great to see your smile. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to mention that we're always enrolling in our ORR, as Courtney mentioned, the Observational Research Registry, which is the largest in the United States for cannabis therapies. Current cannabis users and non-users are encouraged to enroll at our website, which is realmofcaring.org/ORR. We'll be sure to put a link in the bottom in the comment section. Some of the product companies we work with are also giving coupon codes for free or discounted products if you enroll in research. So be sure to call our care team today to learn more about these programs. The number is 719-347-5400, option number 1 to talk to a care specialist. As always, if there is a topic you'd like to know more about that we can feature in these Care Team Chronicles, please reach out. We love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.